That's exciting.
Blog Talk Radio.
That's it. No advertising. Okay.
Well,
here
I'm
we are
still seeing
on
46.
Open Money. What is it? Michael?
Well, I'm seeing that there's still 30 seconds to the show, according to my switchboard.
Nope. We're on live now. 59 minutes remaining. So Michael Linton,
good.
Ernie Jacob, and Alan Rosenblith.
Hi,
there you go. It's another great intro to Open Money, like the last one.
Well,
anyway,
at least
so
we're all here.
Alan's in Portland. Michael and I are in the Comox Valley in Canada, and we're going to be talking about the Mexico Open Money Convergence and what's coming up in Seattle in a few weeks, and what's going on in Portland and Chicago and London and points all over.
Well, who knows where? Yes. But essentially, I think the first thing would be a little bit of a roundup on what happened in Mexico in the first week of March, which is pretty well alluded to, if not well covered, on the Ning site. That's openmoney.ning.com. A group of us came together, 18 of us, to spend about 8 days in an intensive review of the content and the strategies of the Open Money initiatives, where we want to go with it, how we want to form as an operating group, as a live entity, how we want to bring many of the technologies of collective intelligence into making our work more effective. It was a lovely place, wonderfully hosted by Roberto and Chantal, the owners of the Jardin de Sol resort, which you can find if you Google for Jardin de Sol and Tepoztlan. You'll find
and the photographs. There's photographs on the Ning site, which
yeah.
I'm actually vlogging right now.
Uh-huh. And in
watch for it on YouTube or
Blip
TV. Sorry, Michael.
So they were the big the main hosts, but the Mexican team led by Fernanda and her trio of eager beavers, the good guys. There was Juan Pablo, Juan Carlos, also known as Kaiten, and GC, Jose Carlos. They were extraordinarily supportive, effective, on the money all the time. They were wonderful, and they gave us a tremendous base. So we were very intensely organized into getting down to stuff.
Okay, Michael, there are no beavers in Mexico.
No beavers in Mexico? Well, I saw some ringtail something.
I don't think so. Alan, do you know?
Well, I'm not totally sure.
All right.
Anyway,
well, there were all sorts of interesting things.
Too much detail with what happened there.
Well, there were 5 or 6 Americans, depending on whether Jeff from Santa Cruz is considered an American or a Canadian. There was Jerry from Chicago, Jerry Gleason, Gene Russell, also from Chicago, and Lewis and Ethan, the coders behind the Wagon Project, WAGN.org. And there was Adam King from the East Coast. He's a longtime partner of Eric, who of course has been the core of this project for a couple of years now. Ably supported by Sherry Hendren, the famous indie media protagonist from Seattle. Meanwhile, from the French side, Patrice, Sahil, Christian, and Frederick made a big trip. All of them came from France to join us and contributed mightily to the entertainments and festivities. Now, we covered an awful lot of ground.
Wait a minute. There was also Jean-Francois from France and the Transitioner.
Yes, of course.
Collective intelligence, the collective intelligence people.
Yeah, Jean-Francois was the main coordinator of the process. He's spent the last 2 years heavily engaged in the propagation of collective intelligence around the world, and he's been spreading the word about open money everywhere, to great effect, of course. This is why this meeting came together. And so much of the organization of the process was led by Jean-Francois, and that put us well grounded in how we can effectively work with each other in forms of collective intelligence rather than merely independent entrepreneurial self-styled initiatives. We do have to work together, no doubt about it, and Jean-Francois was our leader in that department. And I think that is everybody who was there. It is, in fact, everybody who was there. And well, the early stages were much about establishing what we call the means of open money, the core ideas. Eric's concept of literacy, financial literacy equivalent to the textual literacy that enabled the breakout from the scribe class in 500-600 years ago, when literacy was a very elitist capacity. Most people couldn't read or write and had to go through the channels. And in so many ways, our monetary model is similarly structured at this point. There are the high priests of the Federal Reserve, the great men of banking, and all these exciting people who make our world so interesting and exciting. And then, of course, there's those of us who are just finding out that we can do our own money, that money is a social agreement formed amongst consenting participants, and so it's functionally as easy to set up as an email group with the facilities of internet and with the open money platforms that we're about to release.
So these are the things that you talked about. Now you were there in Tepoztlan for what, 10 days?
Yes, so there was a little setup on the 1st and the 2nd of March, and by the 3rd we were all there and in action, and we kept at it until the 9th. That was our last day, so from the 3rd to the 9th, which is 7 full days. We got a lot of work done.
And a lot of this was recorded, right? I mean, and some of the footage is up on the Ning site, which is on the chat if anybody wants to check it out.
A couple of short interviews that were done by Tim Murphy. Tim Murphy is a filmmaker. His Money Alan? The Movie is cited up there, and he came, did some interviews and put them up in an interesting mode. His attitude towards the Open Money project is that it's a commons initiative, and that footage that he has shot will be made available to anybody who wants to make up their own cut and paste set of references within it. So although some of the footage may end up in some feature film at some point, the raw footage he's been shooting, he's making available for people to cut and paste. I don't know if that's the right term for footage. And Alan, would you say cut and paste?
I think editing would be more.
Oh yeah, more upmarket. Hey, let's get real. Pretend we know what we're talking about. Which of course Alan does. Alan, introduce yourself. Tell us about your movie interests.
Well, my name is Alan Rosenblith. I'm also working on a documentary about money. I've been doing so for the last 3 years or so. It's called The Money Fix, and it's a documentary which pretty much looks to get to the heart of the money question. What is it, where does it come from, and what are the important issues surrounding it, and how can we do better ourselves? Really, it's what it comes down to. So, so that's that, and I'm also working on an initiative here in Portland, which.
Hang on, before you go on about the initiative in Portland, what's the website for the film? If
you go to themoneyfix.org, that's the website for the film, and there's trailers and fair amount of information up on the website.
Okay, so I'll just put that up on the chat.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but before we get to what's happening in Portland, let's finish off the Mexico Convergence stuff, and so that we can then get into, Seattle, Portland, Chicago, etc.
Yes, and that was my reason for introducing Alan as a cinematographer and referencing Tim's opening of the content he shot for common use. Sort of Creative Commons license. Anybody can use it, but if they put it in a for-profit or a broadcast thing, he needs attribution and permissions. And ironically, we were also able to shoot a lot of lower-grade video, but about 19 or 20 hours of it were shot by the goodwill of Patrice, our brilliant French. Well, he's brilliant at so many things. I wouldn't want to list them, but he's a good man with a camera, and he shot a lot of footage, and all this footage will, in due course, become available. And, of course, 98% of it will be discardable, but there's some gems in the other pieces. So I think we're going to come out with some very smart information, some good YouTube clips out of this package, and it will be part of our outreach. Now, the other part of the outreach is, of course, Cascadia, Northwest, Seattle, the Unmoney Convergence on the 14th and 16th of April in Seattle. A group of social entrepreneurs, and here I read from their website, which is unmoney.wik.is. unmoney.wik.is.
.is, did you say?
I did. And and if you can't find it there, just Google Unmoney Convergence. You're bound to find it in some way.
Yeah.
There's going to be, according to the front page, a conference on money liberation and systems change. And it's going to involve social entrepreneurs, academics, economists, bankers. Bankers? Woo! Philanthropists, businessmen and women. Businessmen and women. System changers, lenders, borrowers, barterers will gather in Seattle to engage in an evolutionary conversation on money.
Okay, when
it will be a bit of a gas.
When is it? When?
The dates are April the 14th to the 16th.
And Alan, you're going to be there, right? You've actually bought your
I have bought my ticket, and I will be attending.
And what did it cost you?
It was $175. I take it they actually lowered the ticket price from $300 a while back. So.
Well, that's good. So you got it at a good price.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very excited about it.
Well, it does look very entertaining. The list of partial list of attendees, I'm sure they're all full attendees, it's in the list is partial, includes some very interesting names. I won't list them. I'll leave anybody who's interested to look at that page on the website. But it will be one of the most powerful and general gatherings. Now, from the point of view of the Open Money Project, what we want to see coming from this,
Let me interject just here, because I think this would be a good place to let people know, and I'm thinking that Bill All might be listening, might want to call in and say something about the conference, but the number to call in the States is 646-716-9424. Or put something up on the chat and let us know you're there, and we'll cut you in.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Michael. I just wanted to get that.
Not at all. Not at all. We must look after our listening audience, such as it is.
Such as it is, exactly. We have had the occasional listener.
Yeah, and there will be people who can pick up on the podcast later and review this. And in fact, we're getting to the place where people are transcribing some of our material.
Yeah.
And this is wonderful because transcriptions increase the accessibility immensely and lead to the possibility for some nice cross-editing and linking and bookmarking. So we're delighted when people...
On the Ning site, the Open Money Ning site, if you look at forums, there's a number of transcriptions that Sherry has done. The news story behind Open Money, which is on the openmoney.ning.com site.
And these are very valuable because although the YouTube phenomenon is very powerful, it's also very distracting and people's attention spans are low. And I feel that a marriage between text and video is going to be a profoundly, text, video, and audio is going to be a very powerful method of pinpointing and focusing attention and leading things forward. Because frankly, forward is the only place to go. There's no back anymore. And it's a now situation. I mean, we've heard about the future of money
it's an urgent now. It's
yeah.
Urgent now.
Urgent, real, and present. This is we're in a position where our only significant action must be to begin the implementation of community currencies. And I mean, very.
We were talking with Alan about yesterday.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We could talk a little bit about that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Seattle first, because let's stay on that agenda until we've given shape to that event. One of the things that we did in Mexico was we shifted our attention from one of the core concepts of community currency, mind your own business, MyOB, which is an epithet that came from Eric Frank Russell's brilliant novel, And Then There Were None. And you can find that on the web. Just Google those texts and you'll find it. MyOB was the basic operating ethic for a fictional community currency on a fictional planet. But it's a brilliant analysis. It basically says if you look after your own affairs, you don't have to tell other people how to live theirs. And that's a profound core idea inside community currencies. Mind your own business. Be a good guy. Don't overspend and don't over-earn, and you'll be happy, and so will others. But if you go around messing with other people's worlds and telling them how to behave and doing this and that and the other, then you're just going to bore yourself and them to tears. So forget it. Mind your own business. Well, in Mexico, we extended this out to mind our own business, the plural. What is the collective group? How does a group form itself with a purpose to behave as a group towards a common agenda? And how does it use the tools of open money internally to negotiate and handle its internal exchanges of resources, information, activity? And how does it use that monetary model also to amplify and induce inputs from people on the edge, people who perhaps couldn't come to Mexico but wanted to contribute in some way? Well, we came up with a variety of tools and have begun the implementation of some of them with respect to our own process. That is to say, everybody who came to Mexico, we assessed how much time, energy we'd put in, how much cost it had incurred for us to get out of our home base on a plane, spend 10 days down in Mexico. Well, that and how much time we put in when we were there. You add all that stuff together, and most of us came out that we'd invested somewhere between $4,000 or $5,000 and $10,000 in this 1 week. And this is realistic. When you analyze what people put into conferences, the costs, the time allocations, the value of their time as a contributing participant, you come up with big numbers. The problem with most conferences is that we forget about those numbers and just disappear and say, we'll see you next year. Hooray, that was fun. Well, within the Open Money Project, what we're now trying to do, and I'm sure it's going to work out very nicely, is use the accounting of our input to begin to be more aware of what we're doing and to project forward into the future weeks, months, years of our activities. Because if we can put 100,000 into a 10-day conference, what are we putting in month by month to make that investment solid and productive? Now, the reason for this preamble about the MOOB, the Mind Our Own Business, is that this is what we're going to bring into the Seattle context, or that is our offering to Seattle. there'll be all sorts of people in Seattle talking about all sorts of aspects of community money. Some of them specific to energy or land or international trade or time banking, or all sorts of things. We're going to be talking both the generalities of all such currencies and the specifics of getting the show on the road. You know, if you have a few hundred people converging in Seattle, and maybe 100 of those are Seattle people, it would be absolutely pitiful if there were not a serious Seattle open money project grounded, started, and cooking by the time we have gone through that weekend. So that's what the Open Money Group proposes to offer in the Seattle context is, Seattle, start your engines, time to play. And this is where Alan from Portland has much to offer, because you're on the same track, aren't you, man?
Yeah. Well, we've been developing sort of multi-pronged approach to introducing alternative exchange strategies to firstly the Portland metro area, but ultimately the entire Cascadia region.
And then the world, right?
And someday the world. Yes, someday soon, hopefully. Well, we could talk a little bit about some of those ideas, and I'm certainly very excited to get to know people up in Seattle and sort of share some thoughts and also learn a great deal about what's going on up there. I'm really coming
I guess you're going to be filming when you come to Seattle, eh?
Well, I'll definitely be bringing my camera equipment. I'm probably going to be there more as a representative of the Cascadia Trading Co-op, which is our initiative here in Portland, and looking to kind of share some ideas around our design strategies and also get some feedback, input, et cetera. And, of course, we're really looking at this open money platform as an absolutely vital piece. Because as we were saying yesterday, and maybe this would be a good place to put in this metaphor, I think sort of economically speaking, if we want to kind of blend the economic metaphors with the ecological metaphors here, basically
please blend.
We're living in a parking lot right now. It's pretty much good for one thing, our economic system. And we want to go to living in a forest, which is good for many, 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 many things. So
from the monoculture to the multiculture.
Yes. And I think when we think about and all these networks of exchange are very ecological in nature. In fact, I go as far as to say economics is human ecology. So when we look at how these networks of exchange and cooperation and benefiting develop, I think we have to really look at succession in forest ecology. And so, if you look at that, you abandon a parking lot. First the frost heaves come up, and you get cracks in the pavement, and through which weeds come, which are excellent at your pioneer species, and those probably are equivalent to some of the community currency efforts that have happened thus far. Just kind of enlarging those cracks, and eventually.
A lot of very weedy things out there right now. A lot of very weedy things.
Well, but weeds also serve a very valuable purpose in the context of an ecology. They bring minerals deep up from the soil because they have very deep tap roots, and so I think that it's perhaps a metaphorical stretch, but I think there's some good analogies there to be made. And
absolutely.
And,
yes, and in fact, my first dandelion came up last week, and it's the only one that's come up, but it's right next to the tree. All the others.
The first dandelion of spring in Ernie's garden. Hooray from the neighbors.
And I've got a whole pile of dandelions that I'm waiting to see come up. But I've been digging up the roots, as a matter of fact, like what you were saying about deep roots. Dandelions have got incredible roots, and when coffee is very, very expensive and we can't afford it anymore, We can drink the Dandelion Ersatz coffee.
Yeah, well, you sell that one to Starbucks someday, Ernie, but I'm not going to expect it to go very far. Back to the subject, if I may. Alan's point about succession, about the ability to bring the weeds through the cracks and move on, is so dependent upon a systems platform that enables all these options.
Yeah.
This is the thing that open money points to, is it's not about this is the right currency, that is the better one, do it this way, we've got to do it right, we've got to design this perfect thing. It's not about that at all. These will emerge. What we've got to do is put together the sort of the Petri dish for this emerging culture and the niching of our economic patterns. And this is why we're so excited about where our software designs are now moving, and the facilities we'll be able to offer very, very soon.
Yeah, I should actually add in here as an additional plug, we've been working with someone here in Portland who's basically, we've been working to kind of take this, I don't know, I mean, I wasn't in Mexico, so perhaps this was part of your conversation there, but basically we're looking at the notion that an economy is made up of many, many different types of information flows. And, one of the types is, of course, currency and money. But there are other types as well, I mean, including feedback information on the activities of economic players. So, how are they behaving inside the community? Any kind of First Amendment free speech stuff kind of falls under that. And, of course, then there's the democratic feedback side of it as well, which is the actionable items and decisions of the economic entities of which one is a part. So one of the things we've been working on here in Portland is to develop a comprehensive platform, or more a comprehensive series of formats which can actually be imported into any platform, which will allow a user to interact with all these different information flows simultaneously from the same portal. So, in other words, if you want to conduct your business in the economy, the information about who owes who what, so the money, will be in one sort of corner of the portal. The information about how the person you're interacting or business you're interacting with behaves in relationship to the context will be kind of in another corner. And then one's own actionable items, so the things one has pledged to do, the things that, and of course decisions that need to be made, since we're all part of many different groups, and some of those groups do require governance decisions, and it can be hard to keep track of all those things, especially if you're like me and belong to about 5 different volunteer organizations and sit on all kinds of boards and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're really looking to create a series of formats whereby all of these different economic flows can be, information flows can be aggregated into one environment. So, and hopefully this would make, I think this really speaks a lot to that collective intelligence piece that you're talking about, because, this is a new economy that we're talking about, and, the system we have right now is kind of a dinosaur. I mean, it was designed for industrial production, and pretty much, everyone now, even mainstream economists, recognize that we're moving to a post-industrial economy. So we're going to need new methods of interaction in this post-industrial economy, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at here. So that's a big part of it as well. And anybody who's super geeked out and wants to look into this more, we're actually going to be using microformats, which is a system. I think you can go to microformats.net. Or just Google that, and that's a way of tagging information so that it can be aggregated appropriately within the context of a user's preferred web portal. So.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to this general area for a second, Alan. The whole business of what are flows and currencies in our world is not, of course, restricted to what you spend at the supermarket counter or something like that. There's a university degree is a currency. It gives a status. variable, of course, in some respects. But we carry all these characteristics and properties, and they are part of our negotiation in the world. And there's a very interesting link that I'm just going to put up on the site, the chat for this show. If I can find it, here it is. See if it goes in. I think I got it all. Yes. Yeah. This one will, I hope, if it doesn't work, it should lead you to a presentation by Charlene Lee, who's from Forrester Research, and it's on the future of social networks. And it's a 25-slide presentation, and several of the slides utterly describe the implementation of open money to social networks, the connective frames that will make Facebook and MySpace and LinkedIn and all sorts of other networks manifestly more productive. This is new territory, but it's a profound convergence. The most experienced person in this range in our Mexico meeting was Gene Russell, who's done a lot of work in these mapping, social graphing areas, and very much interested in leveraging philanthropy through social networks. So we're finding a lot of common ground from, the get-rich-quick world of Facebook and others in that sort of Silicon Valley silly season. I don't want to be disparaging about these guys. I deeply appreciate them, but one day they're going to get real, and what they're going to get real with is open money. There you go. That's all I have to say on that subject. Back to you, Alan.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is really interesting when one considers, the old model, which is, a person working a job, which is one job, one group that one participates in, and gets kind of access to the economic pie via the management. As we move to a new model, I think what we're seeing is participation in a lot of different groups, access to the economic pie being regulated on a kind of more indeterminate way. So,
well, access to money is fundamentally what it's about.
Yeah. Well,
I wanted to ask you. Sorry to cut in, but we don't have a whole lot of time left. We got we got half a show left anyway. And I did want to talk a little bit about what the process, what you went through yesterday, in terms of your understanding of Community Way and how.
Yeah. I was wondering when we were going to get onto that.
Yeah, I think now's a good time.
All right, excellent. Yeah, well, so, and of course, as usual, feel free to jump in here if I'm getting this wrong. But
you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
So yeah, well, basically, so we're looking to. There's a lot of different aspects to turning the parking lot into a forest, and one of the things I think is going to be introducing just the idea that one can keep open accounts networks for very specific purposes on a very small scale. And that's one piece that we've been working on here, and I know that's a good, definitely included within the context of open money and something I've been extraordinarily interested in. I think another piece is going to be how do we go from many, many, many small networks, so, the groups of your neighbors, the groups of the people with similar, affinity groups, and then how do we go from that to what we really want, which is an economic context with some real teeth, something that can carry some heavy economic freight, handle manufacturing, something that people can be paid in as employees or as independent contractors. And that period of consolidation there is kind of something we were discussing yesterday, and ways to kind of get that happening sort of simultaneously get the ball rolling on that simultaneously with the development of these micro networks, which are going to be So in that context, I think that's kind of how I understand Community Way as a great sort of entry point into the broader community. And, actually yesterday we did a bit at TAX, which is Technical Assistance for Community Services, and they have about 700 nonprofit members. And let me just tell you, these people are ready for it. I mean, this is going to be very exciting to get Community Way planted here in Portland. And, I think in the course of about 24 hours, I became a true believer in it.
Well, just be careful. Great. True believers are dangerous people, but that's nice. That's great. Perhaps one little contextual comment here. In this process of achieving the transition and moving towards the scale, guess what? Money matters. If you're going to be breaking up the concrete to get the weeds going and, shifting stuff, then the people with the sledgehammers and the pickaxes need to be supported in doing the groundwork, doing the legwork, the development. And that's really what Community Way is for. Community Way is partly a demonstration of the power of community currencies to fund the third sector. That's a very important part of the deal. It's to show that the cash starvation that so much of the nonprofit sector is faced with on a day-by-day, year-by-year process, we can do something about that with community currencies. You're not going to solve all the problems in the world, but hey, we can put more hard money into our third sector by gearing it from community currencies. And that's the message, the Community Way, or call it the Portland Way, the Seattle Way, Chicago Way, London Way. Whichever cities take up this model and take it forward, they're doing great stuff for their third sector. But they're also, at least for the next 4, 5, 6 months, able to use this process to generate their own development revenue. That is to channel revenues and resources from this project into its own engine. So that basically Alan and others can make a living doing what has to be done to get this show on the road. That's critical. No money, no game. We've got to put money into our own machines.
Yeah. And I think, that's kind of, that is another really powerful piece of it. And, I think it's important to understand that, I also see another piece of it as a sort of PR component because, it's like you said, the third sector, who's going to, if you can generate that much money for nonprofits and charities, that's instantly going to be good PR in the community. And
it's good for everybody. It's good for businesses. It's good for community organizations. It's good for people who want to support the local businesses and want to support the charities and projects and good works that are going on. It just means people got more money. And what we're talking about, of course, with Community Way is that this is business-backed money. This is business-backed community money that is donated to community organizations in fairly large amounts. Like a 10-person business would donate 10,000 Community Way dollars to the women's shelter, as an example.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I kind of look at it, I think a big piece of my understanding yesterday came out of the fact that this is kind of, commercial barter club plus.
and minus, please.
Yeah, don't forget the drag that commercial barter creates in the middle by being controller of the tap.
Well, it's exactly, and it's offering. What it would be doing in the context of the Cascadia Trading Co-op, and as I see this, the Cascadia Trading Co-op would kind of, this would be sort of like a getting started party for the Cascadia Trading
bootstrap.
Co-op. And
bootstrap party.
And of course, the other things that we have to offer are B2B. Business to business, monetizing unused capacity. And so businesses get access to that service as well as, supporting the charities and getting tax deductions and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So in-kind donations.
Important to notice that the B2B that comes through an open money platform is functionally free. There isn't an intermediary who's taking a slice. There isn't a toll booth in the middle. There isn't a
well, we can debate about that at some point.
Well, there will be plenty of services. There will certainly be people inside that network who are providing brokerage services and charging fees for it. Plenty of services available. But it won't be that simple business of we run this show, you pay us to participate, which is how commercial barter has made a good living for itself over the last 30, 40 years. No objections to that. It's just that is pretty much the end of the game. This one's going to change
open
over.
Open money B2B very simply means that a business takes care of its own affairs. It's MYOB, mind your own business. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's like your online banking. Online, transactions that you as a business can make with your own money.
Yeah, well, I do kind of. This might be one place where we have a slight divergence, but I do tend to have a belief that the larger the network in question, the more administrative needs there are, and that can be. If you want a coherent structure and a coherent context for economic context, there's going to have to be some management. I think we can look at streamlining that enormously than where it is right now. And I would certainly agree with that.
I'd accept all that, Hal, and I think we're looking at a spectrum of requirements and management issues, organizational, whatever, and it'll range from the completely open to the firm and tight.
Yes.
And everybody's going to play at different places on the scale for different reasons.
Absolutely.
And that's great. I think the imperative thing is to keep the scale wide open. Full
I couldn't agree with you more. And there are plenty of, even today, informal networks, business alliances, and trade associations and things of that kind, which aren't necessarily operating within the context of a currency, but do provide networks of support within a somewhat less formalized, legalized structure, which I think is also an interesting thing to note.
Well, and the open money platform enables multi-currencies, and I think that's an important thing to note, that there are many of these kinds of currencies that can be created on this platform. There's a question we've got. There's Dwayne, who actually lives in Cumberland in the same valley that we live in, has been listening, and he's asking a question. He wants to know, what is the greatest hurdle to overcome in getting open money implemented in a particular community? Who wants to tackle that one?
Well, I'll give it a shot. I've had a bit of experience in that area.
25 years?
Yeah. The biggest problem to overcome is the idea that people have problems. It's a bit like the world is round, the world is flat. If people believe the world is flat, then they're very nervous about moving to the edge because they're going to fall off or, going on big trips. So there's a sort of, no, we'll stay here and be safe. So they've got an embedded anxiety which has no significant base in reality. So it's a lot like the child on the bicycle. I assure you it's safe, but the kid doesn't see it that way, doesn't get it until they've played and found it and done it. So just like the bike, the only way you find out about bikes is with your butt in the saddle. And the same thing applies to any monetary implementation. People have got to do it, use it, play with it, think about it, feel it before you can get past those blocks in the mind space. The yabbuts. If God had meant us to do this, he'd have given us wings sort of thinking. And my God, there's a lot of that lies around in all of us. We are profoundly resistant to change in the core things, which are sort of, I think there's death, food, sex, and money. Those are the big ones, right? We don't like to have our ideas moved around too much in those areas. Money is the one we deal with day by day by day by day, and it's our worldview of money. You can't trust people around money. You got to look after yourself. Number one first, etc. Don't mix friends and money. You'll lose one, or you'll lose them both. Those are the mythologies.
The Dutchman I used to work with at the pulp mill used to say, "Dog eat dog."
Yeah.
Yes,
it's a dog eat dog world,
which is absolutely insane because dogs don't even eat dogs.
Yeah, I know, but don't tell that to a Dutchman. You can always tell a Dutchman, but not very much. That's a bad joke. Sorry for my cultural stereotype.
Jeez, no kidding. Anyway,
dear
got a follow-up question here, okay? On a purely practical level, where do you suggest a citizen like myself begin?
I think the first thing, and this is going to be common all through the world now, it's like, here is the internet. Where do you begin? Well, probably you'd begin by getting an email account and then going to Yahoo groups and looking what was around. It's going to be sort of the same. The previous model was get 20 people together, hold meetings, do this, that, and the other, and try and lift this thing by its bootstraps on its own merits in your own community. That works, but it's quite a lot of work. What we're now looking at is just get yourself in the Open Money Network. Take out an account. Your account will be located in a current country, in a region, in a locality. And then through various ancillary internet services like Ning and like Google and whatever, we're going to support people in finding each other. And you'll find gradually, there's 10 of us in this part of the world who are interested in this. So you'll start from interested people, rather than the other way we used to go, which was starting to try and get people interested. So I know that this is, and I'm sure Dwayne is feeling, come on, I want to go now. This sounds like it's a longer process. Well, maybe it is for a little while. But maybe in about 4 or 5 months' time, somebody in your part of the world, Dwayne, will just go up on the net, look into the process, take out an account, and find that there's 12 other people in the Cumberland area ready to roll. And lo and behold, there you go. You're in your currency network for Cumberland and the one for the Comox Valley. And you're also joined onto the Vancouver Island.
You can go online and create the currency, right? I mean, look, Dwayne, you're interested in having a Cumberland money. Okay, so you go up on the website, you register, and you create an account and you create a currency. And creating the currency is like creating an e-group on Yahoo or Google or wherever, right? It's like, okay, I've got this e-group here now.
Which is all very well, but we've got to recognize that this is also very superficial and lightweight. What Dwayne's also asking, I'm sure, is, but how do I move this thing into action?
I actually have an idea. That's something I want to share kind of around that.
Can I throw mine in first before you do?
Sorry. Yes.
First idea, get your butt down to Seattle. Come on, Dwayne, let's go to Seattle. Because what you're going to see in Seattle are a huge number of very interested and active people with the intent to move forward. And they're moving forward in perhaps a local region around Seattle or Portland for you, Alan, and there'll be people from Chicago coming over, and. But what we learn together, we take home. And what we take home, we can implement. And that's the name of this game, is spreading memes, spreading patterns, propagating viral ideas, and implementing them in our own worlds. So a lot of answers to your question there, Dwayne, about where to go next. A lot of them. Alan,
I can just, we're doing this process now here in Portland, where we are, running focus groups and dialoguing with the business community, and really trying to get a sense of what memes stick and which memes offer a great deal of resistance. So we've really been trying to, figure out how to, cooperate with what's already happening out there. And one of the things we've discovered is, I think this fits right in with the ecological framework, is, anytime you receive an invoice for anything, you're being extended credit. And you're working on an open account system. So if two businesses go back and forth and they settle accounts, say, once every 90 days, they will send each other invoices, and at the end of the 90 days, there's a balance, and that gets settled out. Well, okay. I mean, in a way, that's actually sort of the first step of a microcurrency. And so what we're saying here is, okay, well, in addition to just, having these individual relationships with trading partners, we can make this process more dynamic by, person A invoices person B invoices person C might settle up in cash with person A. You see? So now we've extended the network out a little bit. And that's kind of the premise from which we're operating, is trying to get businesses to see that they're already behaving and using a lot of these principles and tools in the way they conduct their business. And anytime you want to start something new, it's baby steps. I think are always a lot easier for people to get on board with than giant leaps of faith. And I think this might be a good baby step.
I think you're right. It's obviously very much easier to show people that they're already really doing much of what we're talking about, and that with a little bit of fine-tuning or adding a little twist here, they get the full meal deal. And certainly this business of cross-clearing invoices, anybody who's really interested in this specific area should Google Todd Boyle and ARAP, accounts receivable, accounts payable, the cloud. It's a very interesting approach to opening these conversations. It shows the patterns that are already happening in your commercial community and provides you with a means of amplifying them and converging them towards a real community currency. And I've got to really emphasize, you've got to have the currency. If you just do cross-clearing, it's a very limited and essentially ineffectual process. It just really cuts out some bank processing charges but changes nothing at all. It's when you bring the community currency in with that emergent pattern that it becomes a persistent and a vital thing rather than just another drain. So, yeah, great idea. Way to play.
Okay. Hold it, guys. We've got 7 minutes remaining. Okay, so maybe we should end this with a little bit more about what's going to happen in Seattle, maybe. And
what's
next
going to happen? Yeah, but I don't know what's going to happen in Seattle.
In terms of what we want to have happen. I mean, what do you want?
We want a lot of people from the Seattle region. And by that I mean up and down, all the way up to Vancouver, if you like, and all the way down to Cascadia and Portland, to be consciously engaging in coming together for a launch vehicle. Rather than working as mere independents, rather than just waiting for the bus to leave the station, we're ready. I'm sitting here with my hat on. I'm ready. That's great, but it's not like build the bus, move the bus. We want to get the MOOB package, minding our own business, into those who come to Seattle with an intent to move forward. If people come to Seattle to be entertained, that's great, but sit at the side and throw money. That's the only thing you can usefully do. What we need at this point are people who are willing to get in and get down and get into it and be productive.
And bring resources, share resources, whatever you got to contribute. And because this is, like, that's what we started the show with. We're talking about an urgent now. We all know what we're dealing, well, not all of us. I mean, some of us have a pretty good idea of the kind of shape we're in. and the hour, the
where the clock sits. We've heard about the
ticks.
future of money for so damn long. I was just listening to something on Ron Paul radio a few minutes ago, and got on it for a few seconds, and it was the old stuff. This I read 25 years ago. This is what we should do. The banks are evil. Interest is in the way. Read Bernard Leotar's book. Well, future money, no. No, we're not talking the future of money. We're talking the now of money. And if you want to see what we're talking about in specific terms, then go to editme.com. Openmoney.editme.com, because that's where the now of money is laid out. And it's the entry package for people to start exploring this and getting real about it. And now is the time, not then, not in the future, not after the whole thing's fallen apart. For a start, it has already fallen apart. It's just not been fully noticed how far it's fallen.
The shit that's going on in this world right now is enough to make a body cry.
It is indeed.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why we need to come at this from a positive perspective, and come at this from let's not focus on what we can't do. Let's focus on what we can do. And
precisely.
One of the things I hear so often in the various talks that I give around town and elsewhere. People always, when they think about money, they always want to prove how this can't be done. Like they always want to bring up all these things, like they call it utopian, or they want to bring up the IRS, or they want to bring up all these other things, and it's always about what can't be done. And I think
so Seattle is going to be about what can be done, and in fact, not what can be done, but what will be done.
Yeah. And in that context, the basic community way model, the ability to pump money into the nonprofit third sector, the ability to fund our own development, that's the vehicle. And I suggest that our next Blog Talk Radio session will be fundamentally about the broad and the fine details of how community way is our number one vehicle. It may not be that way for long. Good heavens, new ideas are always welcome, but this one at least has legs and wheels and steering, and it's fun. So, Community Way is the name of the game, and you can find Community Way at openmoney.org/CW. And then just follow your nose through that stuff. There's lots of it. Also follow the Wildfire link if you get to that page, openmoney.org. Click on Wildfire. Learn a lot. And if you do that, and you come back to Blog Talk Radio for when? Friday morning, perhaps, gentlemen?
Friday morning sounds good. How about you, Alan?
Oh, I'm always game.
Okay.
Well, that'd be great. We might even be able to bring in somebody from London on this one. I know Les Moore's been listening to us, hasn't able to join the conversation, but Les Moore was one of the original creators of the Community Way project in London in 1994. So he knows it inside out.
In 94.
Yes, our man in London. So next event, probably
11 o'clock Friday morning.
Sounds good to me.
Likewise.
And all welcome. Bring in your questions. Bring in your input. Let's talk about money for the real world.
And Dwayne says he's gonna see what he can do about going to Seattle. He says thanks for a great show.
Well, excellent.
Great. Well, thank you, Dwayne. You are our second listener.
Yeah, and we'll set up a carpool on this one, Dwayne. If you're up for the trip, let's
get together. Let's talk.
You betcha. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We can use telephones.
Yeah. And anybody who's interested to see what Dwayne does, check out cumberlandcommunity.ca. cumberlandcommunity.ca. That's Dwayne's patch. Nice one, Dwayne. Nice one, Alan.
Yeah, thanks for
Ernie.
Right here.
That was fun.
I'm out of here.
It was a fun show. Let's do more.
Excellent.
You betcha. Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
So that was Michael Linton and Alan Rosenblith. Alan in Portland, Michael around the corner. I'm Ernie Jacob. This is Open Money on Blog Talk Radio. Les Moore says, well done. Hiya, Les. And maybe you're going to be with us next Friday, eh? You going to be around on Friday morning, 11 o'clock? Okay, this is it. I got 17 seconds. This is dead air. Okay. Well, I don't have to finish it off. But anyway, see you Friday morning, 11 o'clock. And where's the thing I turn off here? Here. This.